Welcome back. In a wobbly market, what was a good gainer yesterday was Asian Paints. In fact, from its lows, the stock has gained about 40% on improving demand and reducing competitive intensity perception. In an exclusive conversation with us, the management decodes the events of the last 2 years, what the future looks like right now, and more importantly, when the company decides to pull the plug on their home improvement business, which hasn't been doing as well.
I think this pressure has always been there. If I look back last 2 decades, it's been always there. Just that today the number of players who are coming and trying to take a dig at it is much more to that extent. And I think that's something which is good because it also, as a leader, keeps us on toes in terms of thinking what is the differential thing in terms of what you are kind of really talking of. And that's why I keep on saying that, we will keep on creating trends. People have to make case studies out of it.
For me personally, one of the things which is a perpetual disappointment from an Asian Paint standpoint is the non-paints home decor business.
Sure.
It's definitely not gone down the way analysts expected, perhaps not gone down the way you expected it as well. Some of the bolt-on acquisitions that were made did not go down well. They were perhaps strategic missteps, so to say. Some of the targets that you've given haven't been met. And for a company the size of Asian Paints, any new foray, one would have imagined would be big, bold, and something not very different from what
Sure.
others would do in the paint industry.
Yeah.
So what was the problem there?
So I feel that, the way we anticipated the market, we were here not fighting any organized competition. We were fighting unorganized sector. And what we didn't realize in the unorganized sector is that the flexibility of pricing, the flexibility of the way they are able to kind of regionalize the product, I think was something which was very, very high. So I think it has taken us some time. We have put about 70 beautiful home stores across the country. The stores are doing well. But when you compare to the size of what we do in coatings, obviously the size is very, very small in terms of what's happening. And what you say is right. Some of the acquisitions which we did, we kind of grew them in the first 2-3 years, but then we were not able to sustain that kind of a buoyancy in terms of what happened to that extent. But as we see it, I think it's an integral part of our strategy because we feel that if you own homes, okay, one of the big things which Asian Paints does is that as part of Har Ghar, you can't just own surfaces, you have to own spaces. And today decor gives us that big rope in terms of looking at owning spaces. And we feel that that's a very big differentiator for us because if you were to kind of put all the brands today, okay, only one brand today appropriates home, and that is Asian Paints. And that is where possibly the decor strategy is still very, very relevant to us in terms of where it stands. Yes, we have a task in terms of how we need to kind of put it into shape and get it back rolling to that extent, but we are committed to it.
And how long will that commitment last, and at what point will you believe that, okay, we've put enough resources, mind space, and ideas behind it, but maybe it's just time to pull the plug?
So we are giving ourselves another 2 years in terms of looking at really getting behind it in terms of what we want to achieve, what we want to do to that extent, and really seeing that we can bring excellence in those categories, which is what was Asian Paints' style of businesses.
And what would the end of those 2 years look like for you to call it a success in terms of numbers?
So we are looking at a certain contribution which that decor piece which kind of gives us, and we are looking at something like about a 7 to 8% contribution to our overall business in terms of what will be there to that extent. And that is something which possibly would be an indication that we are on a right trajectory.
And in coatings itself, what is your aspiration? Because right now, obviously, a large part comes in from repainting. Then there is a certain part which comes in from, the new buildings which are announced. And thereafter, there is this new TAM which is opened up, which is government-led infra.
Yeah.
Do you have an ideal mix here?
So see, when you look at today, I think the trend which we are seeing is that the whole area of the industrial and the B2B space is changing quite a bit, and that is really expanding, given the fact that you're talking of private capex and you're talking of government investment, which is coming in a very big way, which I believe will continue to that extent. And therefore, one of the big focus which we are taking is basically the B2B and the industrial business in terms of where our contributions are relatively less as compared to possibly some of the competition in terms of what is there. So that's the new piece in terms of the growth trajectory in terms of what we are taking in a very big way to that extent, apart from the fact that the retail excellence will continue in terms of what we are doing to that extent, and that would kind of really see that it kind of firmly pegs us amongst the top 5 global players in the world.
So if I had to look at Asian Paints 3 years from now, what according to you would the revenue mix be? How much comes in from decorative? How much comes in from B2B? In decorative, how much comes in from retail decorative, and how much comes in from, say, government infra or all the housing projects, etc.? How much comes in from home decor and how much comes in from international?
See, roughly, if you look at it, basically the whole coatings landscape overall, when we say from a point of view of a decorative, that will still lie in a band of about 78 to 80% in terms of as I see it. And out of that, possibly about a 20% contribution would come in from the B2B business to that extent. When you look at the industrial business, I think that will continue to kind of go on to a realm of something like about 8 to 10%, and global would be another 10% to that extent.
All right. And you know, you will still be 18 to 20% margins at that point.
That's what we are kind of dwelling at very strongly.